Okay, in this video, we're going to go over the different types of quadratic equations problems that are going to be on Monday's quiz for my Algebra 2 class, but, basically it's just an overview of different methods for solving quadratics, just a good review for you guys. So, I would say to do this video, you should have a piece of paper and writing utensil handy so you can practice these problems too. And I'll tell you at certain points to pause the video and try solving on your own, because math is not a spectator sport. You need to be trying it on your own too. So our first one we're going to do is a solving by factoring problem. We got 2x squared minus 9x equals negative 4. So I'm going to go over it in just a moment, but first I'm going to ask you to pause the video, get your piece of paper, and see if you can solve this out by yourself. Remember, factoring means you're probably using the box. You're going to have to make this a trinomial, factor your trinomial, set it to 0, and solve. So get out your paper, pause this video. You can just pause it right now. Alright, if you're still here, hopefully that means that you have tried solving the equation and you have your solutions. So let's check and see if you did it right. First thing, if we want this to be factored, we got to set it equal to 0, which means we need to get rid of that negative 4. So we're going to do plus 4 on both sides here, giving us 2x squared minus 9x plus 4 equals 0. So now we have our trinomial, and we can factor it up using the box. So 2x squared goes here, 4 goes here. These two have to add up to negative 9x. So we're going to get a 2x and an x, and we're going to, you can try your different numbers, but it's going to end up being negative 1 and negative 4, because then that gives you negative 1x and negative 8x, add up to negative 9x. So all of our numbers are working out correctly. So what we have then is 2x minus 1 and x minus 4. So that's our factored form. And then if this problem just said factor, we would be done here, but since it says solve by factoring, we want to keep on going. Set our factors equal to 0. So 2x minus 1 equals 0, and x minus 4 equals 0, and then from there we solve. So plus 1, and then divide by 2. Our first solution is 1/2. And then for our other one, you're just adding 4 on both sides. Second solution, x equals 4. So those are your two solutions. Hopefully those are the answers you got as well. Alright, so the second one we're going to do is an extracting square roots problem. So this is the one where you want to get rid of everything step by step and get x by itself. So again here, I'm going to ask you to pause the video. Okay, so now hopefully you did that out on your own, and now you can check and see if you did it right. Alright, so first thing we need to get rid of is this negative 3. Please do not be distributing this negative 3 into this binomial. Don't distribute it, just don't do it. That's being squared. So order of operations says exponents before multiplication. Just don't do it. Just divide it out. Divide. Alright, so we got x minus 2 squared equals 12, because negative divided by negative gives you a positive. Alright, so now we want to get rid of the squared. That means we square root, and every time we square root, automatically, without thinking about it, put that plus or minus in front. Plus or minus square root 12. And then on the left side, it all cancels. You just have this. Now, I want to take a little look at this radical right here, square root 12, because we can break that down. We can see a perfect square that goes into 12, and that would be 4. So this is going to be root 4 times root 3, because 4 times 3 is 12, and 4 again is a perfect square. So square root of 4 we turn into a 2, so we have 2 root 3. So really this plus or minus root 12 is plus or minus 2 square root 3. And then the last thing we need to do is just add 2 on both sides to get x by itself. And then this gives you your solutions. So your first solution would be positive 2 root 3 plus 2. Your second solution would be negative 2 root 3 plus 2. So hopefully you got that part right. Hopefully you remembered to put the plus minus and simplify your radical. Alright, so then the third and fourth are about completing the square. So the third one over here, fill in the perfect square trinomial. So we got x squared minus 18x plus blank equals blank squared. And take a moment again and figure out how you would fill in those blanks. So I'm just going to ask you to pause the video now and try it on your own. Alright, well, here's how we would do this perfect square trinomial. When you see a perfect square trinomial, there should be a number that's kind of in your head because it's the number that you double to get b and you square to get c. And if you look at what would be the number that we doubled to get negative 18, well, it would have to be negative 9. Negative 9, you know, you times that by 2, you get negative 18. So then by squaring that number, we get positive 81, so we know 81 is what goes in here. And then, since this is the number you had in your head, this minus 9, that's what goes when you have your factored form. It's going to be x minus 9 squared. That's your factored form right here. So that's how we can fill in a perfect square trinomial. Then the final type of problem we're going to do, and the last type of problem you'll see on the quiz, is completing the square. So this is our completing the square example. 3x squared minus 6x minus 12 equals 0. So try and see if you can do this one on your own. Completing the square is the one where you have to do b over 2 squared. So if you remember what method that is. Take a second now and try this problem. See if you can do it. Alright, so now let's see if you got it right. So first thing we want to do, we want to divide by a and subtract c. So we'll have to divide everything by 3 because we don't want to have any coefficient on our x squared. So that leaves us with x squared minus 2x minus 4 equals 0, and then we want to get rid of our c, so add that 4 on both sides, and we have x squared minus 2x equals 4. Okay, so now this is in position, ready for us to continue. Now this is where b over 2 squared comes into play. So our b here is negative 2 because that's always just the number in front of x. That's x's coefficient. So we put that in for that b spot, and we're going to do negative 2 over 2 squared, which is negative 1 squared, which is just 1. So what we do with this number is we add it on both sides. We do plus 1 on the left and plus 1 on the right. Now on the right side here, 4 plus 1 is just going to be 5. This is a simpler example right here, no fractions. If you want to see a harder one, because you might see a harder one, you will see a harder one on the quiz because there's going to be A and B. A is going to be easier, B is going to be harder. If you want to see a harder one, watch my other video with the harder example. Anyway, so on the left side here, we've got our perfect square trinomial. We want to factor it up, which means factored form will always look something like this for your perfect square trinomial, and then you just look at this and see what's the number that's in your head when you look at this. What do you double to get negative 2 and you square it to get positive 1? And that would be negative 1. Negative 1 you double to get negative 2, and you square to get positive 1. Alright, so we just went from an equation we can't solve to an equation we can solve, and then from here it's just extracting square roots. So from here it's pretty simple. You just get rid of your squared by square root, leaving you with x minus 1 on the left. And then square root 5 can't be any further simplified. No perfect squares can be taken out. So you just leave it, but make sure you put that plus or minus in front of it. That's real important. And then last thing you got to do is just get rid of this minus 1. So on both sides of your equation, you're going to add 1 to get x by itself. So your solution is just going to be plus or minus square root of 5 plus 1. One of your solutions is positive root 5 plus 1. The other solution is negative root 5 plus 1. So hopefully you all got that right.